Hi, folks. This is Scott Giles. I'm a certified hypno coach and a diplomate of the National Guild of Hypnotists. And this is my Facebook Live feed, which I do every Saturday afternoon at 2:30 Central Time. And thanks for being here and thanks for tuning in. Today, I want to talk about the dangers of having expectations of other people. Specifically, the wrong kind of expectations, because expectations come in two forms. The first form of expectation, which is usually fine, are expectations you have of another person because you've entered into an agreement with them about those expectations. For example, Lindsay and I have expectations of each other about household chores, and we intentionally made promises to each other about what chores we would do and when. So an expectation that's been freely chosen and is clear is certainly fine. You're not likely to get into trouble with that. Where the trouble comes in is when you have unanalyzed expectations of other people, things you just assume and often act on, and then you get disappointed or upset. Now, ministers get this like all the time. As part of our training, we go through something called a clinical pastoral education, which means you're still a student, but you're put in as a chaplain at a hospital or a clinic or some sort of facility. So I was a chaplain at a hospital at the University of Chicago doing my CPE, and I was on call that night. So I got paged, and I went to a room in the hospital, and the person was dying. And, well, that's a good reason to page the chaplain. But this guy didn't believe in any religion, didn't like religion. In fact, we could honestly say he was religion hostile. But his family in the hallway says, we don't know if he's been saved. You go in there and have him pray the sinner's prayer so that he'll be saved. Well, I don't believe that you have to do that. And even if I did believe it, it would be absolutely against hospital and department policy to try to convert someone against their wishes on hospital property. So I explained that, no, I couldn't do that. And if the patient didn't want me in the room, I really couldn't be there. Whereupon the older aunt goes up to me and makes the sign of the horns and goes, putting an evil eye on me or something. Well, certainly that was scriptural. But she had expectations, you see, about what I, as a member of the clergy, was going to expect to do, and I didn't meet her expectations. There was a time when I was in my very, very first congregation, serving a rural church on the eastern tip of Long Island. And the church had been vacant for a long time, and there had been some congregational drift. There were old families in the town that really didn't believe in the denomination itself. They just kind of had always been members of this church. Well, I get a call from a woman. Her son's going to come in to talk to me. And what happened was her son, the night before, had come out of the closet as gay. So that's great. I'll be happy to talk to the young man. And, my denomination is one of the most friendly to alternative lifestyles of any denomination in America. So he comes in and we had a great session. We talked about who he wanted to know and who he didn't want to know about his sexual status. We talked about how it felt to come out of the closet, what he was worried about. And when he left my office an hour and a half later, I felt I had really done a good piece of work. In fact, I gave myself a pat on the back. Then, in the evening, it hit the fan. The phone rings and it's the father. And he's screaming and swearing at me because his expectation, you see, wasn't that I was going to help his son work through his issues. His expectation was I was going to shame his son and tell him that he had to be a heterosexual. Well, that's nothing I would ever do. But he had that expectation and conflict results. Conflict usually comes when you have unanalyzed expectations about other people. At the early part of my career, I was working with a couple here at the office, in fact, and they came in and I asked, well, how can I be helpful? And the man says, "You tell my wife that she's got to do exactly what I tell her to do, just like it says in the Bible." Well, I don't agree it says that in the Bible, and even if I did, I still wouldn't tell her that. The expectation he had, though, was that I was gonna take this very traditional line. And when I didn't, he was furious at me. I felt he was almost getting ready to do some sort of assault. So romantic couples, typically, when they have trouble, if you talk to them and try to get them past the trouble, very often it's that someone's not living up to the unarticulated expectations that the other person has in the relationship. A lot of people, especially younger folks, when they get married, their expectation is that their partner is going to behave just like their mother and father behaved in their family of origin. My first wife, in fact, expected this. She expected me to do what her father did in their family, and I'm a very different person. He's a good guy, but we're very different, and no, I was not going to behave like him. So always check out your expectations about other people. Now, Linz and I have a 30-year marriage and a 40-year relationship. One of the reasons we have been so successful is that as a couple, we don't have unanalyzed expectations about each other. We talk about things. We come to clear agreements. And because of that, we don't get our feelings hurt and we don't get disappointed. Always check out those expectations. It's the ones that you're not analyzing, that you haven't actually thought through and checked out, that'll get you in trouble every single time. You're suing people for performance on a behavioral contract they don't think they signed. So, thank you very much for being here. I'll be back the corresponding time next Saturday. And in that video, I'm going to talk about how to deal with manipulative people. Thank you very much. Have a great day.